In 2010, a body was pulled from an irrigation well in rural China. No face, no clothes, no name. Just an axe at the bottom beside it. It took investigators months to identify the victim, but when they finally did, it turned out this man hadn't come to Shandong as anyone's victim. He'd come as a hired hand, sent to take someone else's life. Welcome to Paws&Clues with Ajax. I'm Ajax. Every case leaves a trace, and today, we're following one of them. Stay with me on this one, because in this story, absolutely no one is innocent. July 2010, Shanghe County, Shandong Province. A farming community out in the flatlands where everybody knows everybody. Villagers report something in an old irrigation well, a forgotten shaft out where 3 villages meet, nearly 5 kilometers from the nearest homes. Nobody goes out there. Police arrive, and what they pull out of the ground changes everything. A man's body, forced down head first. The mouth of the well is only about 33 centimeters across, barely wider than a dinner plate. Whoever did this wasn't in a hurry. They took their time, they used force, and they clearly didn't want this man found. Decomposition has taken the face. No clothing on the body, no wallet, no ID. Nothing that could tell anyone who this person was. The autopsy gives investigators a thin outline to work with. Male, 30 to 40 years old, 183 centimeters, about 6 feet tall, roughly 90 kilos. A big, powerful man. He'd been in that well anywhere from 3 months to a year. Cause of death? Blunt force trauma to the head. And at the bottom of the well, resting beside the body, one object. An axe. But not a regular axe. This one has 2 extra reinforcing metal plates fitted between the head and the handle. That kind of modification is almost unheard of on a household tool. Whoever bought this axe didn't grab it off a wall in a panic. They went looking for something heavy, something effective, something built to do damage. Investigators start with the axe. They walk into every hardware store in the county, showing it around. Eventually, one shop owner recognizes the model. A batch of 80, shipped in late December 2009, 13 sold. But the owner can't remember a single buyer's face. Meanwhile, a second lead. A local villager recalls seeing dark stains on the ground near the well back in late January 2010. Put that together with the decomposition estimate, and the timeline takes shape. The victim likely died sometime in January. So the detectives check what you'd expect them to check. Missing persons. Within 5 days, they've pulled together 17 people reported missing from surrounding villages. Not one matches the body. Provincial databases, national databases, fingerprint records. Nothing. This big, powerful man doesn't appear in any system anywhere. It's as if he never existed. Dead end. The investigation has walked straight into a wall. So the detectives make a decision that flips their entire approach. If they can't identify the body from the inside out, they'll work from the outside in. Forget who the victim is for a moment. Who in this area did something strange right around that same time? Who vanished? Who changed their routine? Who did something that, in hindsight, makes no sense? Almost immediately, one name surfaces. Wang Shiyuan, a local poultry farmer from the same township who disappeared not long after January 2010. Now there's an obvious issue. Wang is about 165 centimeters tall and thin. The man in the well is 183 and built like a truck. They're clearly not the same person. But something about Wang nags at the detectives. Because just before he vanished, Wang did something odd. He took his car, nearly brand new, to a body shop and had the entire thing repainted. That's the kind of detail that makes a homicide detective sit up straight. Why would someone repaint a car that's barely a year old? Unless something was on it that they needed gone. They bring the vehicle in, go over it section by section. At first, clean. Nothing. The respray did its job. But then a technician spots something. Wedged near the spare tire in the trunk, caught on a dead leaf. One tiny reddish dot. Microscopic, easy to miss. Easy to dismiss as a fleck of paint from the shop. But this dot doesn't behave like paint. Dried paint is hard and brittle. This is soft. They send it to the lab. human biological trace. And when they run the DNA, it matches the man from the well. That single invisible dot means one thing: the body was in Wang Shiyuan's trunk. Now they tear into Wang's life: phone records, movement patterns, bank activity. And in January 2010, one thing jumps out. Wang was in near constant contact with two mobile numbers, both registered to addresses in Tianjin, more than 500 kilometers away. After January 24th, one of those numbers goes completely silent, never used again. The names behind the numbers: Han Benli and Han Baoshan. Two men from the same village in Tianjin who came to Shandong months earlier for what they called work. Both have since effectively vanished. And here's the detail that makes the detectives lean forward. Han Benli was 183 centimeters tall, the exact height of the man in the well. They track down Benli's family, take DNA samples, run the comparison. It's a match. The faceless man pulled from that irrigation well is Han Benli. After months of darkness, the victim finally has a name. But that name doesn't close the case. It cracks it wide open. Because now there's a question the detectives can't answer comfortably. What connects a missing chicken farmer from Shandong to a dead man from Tianjin? They bring in the other name from those phone records: Han Baoshan. At first he gives them nothing. Arms crossed, jaw set, barely a word. But here's the thing about interrogations. Investigators don't always need a confession to make progress. They need a contradiction. Something the suspect said that can't be true. And Baoshan has already given them one, without realizing it. After Han Benli disappeared, his family naturally reached out to Baoshan. "You were working together," they said. "Where did he go?" And Baoshan told them not to worry, said he'd seen Benli after January 24th, said Benli had gone off to find work somewhere else. Reassuring, casual, nothing to worry about. Except the police now know something Baoshan doesn't know they know. Han Benli was already gone by January 24th. You cannot see a man who no longer exists. You cannot speak to someone who's been in the ground for days. That single impossible claim, "I saw him after the 24th, cuts the ground out from under everything else Baoshan has said. Under that pressure, the wall cracks, and what comes pouring out reframes everything the investigators thought they were looking at. According to Baoshan, he and Benli hadn't come to Shandong for regular work. They'd been hired by Wang Shiyuan to end the life of a local man named Zhang Benling. The price? 140,000 yuan, about $20,000. Over the course of months, the two hired men tried everything. They staged a traffic accident. They rigged explosives inside Zhang Benling's vehicle. They attempted other ambushes. And every single time, they failed. Again and again, the target walked away untouched. Eventually by then, Benli and Baoshan had burned through months of expenses: food, lodging, transport, daily costs, and they had nothing to show for it. So they turned on the man who hired them, started squeezing Wang for money. "Pay us what we're owed," they said, "or we walk into a police station and tell them everything." That's when Wang Shiyuan showed who he really was, because instead of paying up or running or panicking, he decided to make the two men destroy each other. He went to Han Benli privately, whispered the same thing over and over: "Baoshan is greedy. Baoshan is dangerous. One day, over money, Baoshan is going to come for you." And then Wang handed Benli a firearm. "Just for protection," he said. Then he turned around and went to Han Baoshan. Completely different story. "Benli is unstable," he told him. "Benli is going to crack. He's going to go to the police and bring everyone down." And then came the offer. "Take care of Benli yourself, and you keep all the money." Two men, each now convinced the other is about to make a move, each waiting for the other to strike first. January 24th, 2010. One final failed attempt on Zhang Benling. That night, all the manufactured paranoia ignites. Han Benli pulls the firearm Wang gave him and fires at Baoshan. It jams, misfires, nothing happens. And in that frozen half-second, terrified, enraged, running on pure survival, Han Baoshan grabs the reinforced axe, swings it at Benli's head, again and again. Han Benli is gone. Baoshan calls Wang Shiyuan. The two of them load the body into Wang's car, drive out to the abandoned well, strip the remains to prevent identification, and force the body head-first down that narrow shaft. Then they go their separate ways. Now at this point, you'd think the case is basically solved. Investigators know who's in the well. They know who swung the axe. They know the whole conspiracy, the target, the money, the manipulation. All that's left is to track down Wang Shiyuan and close it out. But here's the problem. Wang isn't just hiding. He's gone, completely. No bank transactions, no phone activity, no ID used anywhere in the country. 2 full years go by without a single sign that Wang Xiyuan is still alive, and the detectives know something from experience that most people don't appreciate. Fugitives leave trails. They spend money, they get homesick and call family, they slip up with a fake name, they get pulled over for a traffic stop. Something always gives them away eventually. Disappearing for years, truly, completely, without one single mistake? That's nearly impossible. And Wang has left nothing, not one crumb, not one slip. 2 years of absolute silence. So investigators go back to something they noticed early on, but hadn't given full weight to. After Wang vanished, several people in his village received text messages from his phone. The messages said he'd left to avoid debt collectors and would come back in a few years. Tidy, believable, case closed, on paper. Except for one small thing that won't sit right. In those messages, Wang addressed everyone as brother. Now in most contexts that's nothing, but this is rural Shanghai County, a traditional farming community where seniority and proper forms of address aren't optional, they're taken seriously. And some of the men who received that brother message were elderly, older generation villagers that Wang, a local boy who grew up steeped in these customs, would never in his life casually address as brother. He'd know better. He'd sooner forget his own name. Which leaves only one conclusion. Wang probably didn't write those messages. And that realization tilts the entire case onto a new axis. What if Wang Xiyuan isn't hiding? What if Wang Xiyuan is already gone, and has been from the very beginning? They rebuild the timeline of his disappearance from scratch, interview villagers again, ask one simple question. When was the last time you actually saw Wang Xiyuan with your own eyes? And the villagers hand them a small but crucial detail. The last time anyone saw Wang alive, the weather was strange, foggy with light snow. Unusual for the area, memorable. Investigators pull the meteorological records, cross-reference. That specific weather pattern pins to one day, March 9th, 2010. And that date changes everything. Because by March 9th, Han Baoshan was already back home in Tianjin. He was nowhere near Shandong. Which means, if something happened to Wang on March 9th, Baoshan didn't do it. It was someone else. Someone the detectives haven't been looking at. But who? There's no body, no scene, no witness, no suspect. Just a growing certainty, heavier each day, that a man who disappeared did not leave voluntarily. Most cases die at this point. The leads are gone. There's nothing to grab onto. But this team refuses to let it go. They keep meeting, keep rereading every statement, keep turning the same pieces over, looking for the one thing they walked past. And then, in one of those late meetings, a detective mentions something, almost as an aside. Early on in the case, they'd interviewed Zhang Benling, the man Wang had spent months and a fortune trying to have taken out. The intended target. The only person in this story who was supposed to end up gone, but didn't. During that interview, Zhang had casually said something that no one thought much of at the time. If it were me, I'd just burn the body. In the room, most people heard it as dark humor and moved on. But now, months later, one detective goes completely still. Because normal people don't sit in an interview room and casually brainstorm more effective ways to dispose of remains. And then there's what Zhang Benling does for a living. He runs a funeral business. He transports the deceased. He deals with crematoriums. He handles the paperwork. He understands, better than almost anyone alive, exactly how the system works, where the loopholes are, and how a body could be made to disappear permanently. And just like that, the entire picture rotates on its axis. What if the intended victim had become the one doing the taking? Wang Xiyuan spent months and a small fortune trying to end this man's life. Who on earth would have more reason to want Wang gone than the one person he kept trying to eliminate? They turn the investigation around completely. Zhang Benling, no longer a victim, a suspect. Investigators review local cremation records from March 2010. Everything checks out. Every death has valid paperwork. Every certificate looks legitimate. There are no gaps, no flags, nothing to grab onto. But they refuse to stop at the county line. They widen the search, pull records from neighboring counties as well, and they find that around March 9th, 2010, Zhang Benling personally transported and processed 5 separate bodies across several different crematoriums. At first, even that looks normal. He's in the funeral business, of course he handles bodies. All 5 had complete documentation, until they find it. The single, impossible detail that breaks the whole thing open. One of the elderly men listed in those 2010 cremation records had already been cremated once before, back in 2008. Same person, processed through a crematorium twice, and that is not a clerical error. That's a real body, being smuggled through the system wearing a dead man's recycled identity. The problem is, by now, the actual physical remains are gone, reduced to ash, scattered. There's nothing left to test. No DNA, no bone, no forensic evidence of any kind. You can't put ashes on a witness stand. But then fate turns one final card. Zhang Benling's wife, Zhang Hongxia, mentions something small to the investigators, almost in passing. At some point after March 2010, the embroidered cushions from their living room chairs just vanished. They've been hand-stitched, carefully made. One day they were there, the next they were gone. When she asked Zhang about them, he shrugged. They were dirty, threw them out. But she knew that didn't make sense. You don't casually toss out hand-embroidered cushions. She filed it away as strange, let it go. Didn't think about it again for years. But the detectives hear that and immediately go back to the house. This time they're not looking at the cushions. They're looking at what was underneath them. The wooden chair frames. The surfaces that have been exposed since those cushions disappeared. And there, on the wood, nearly invisible to the naked eye, they find a tiny black speck. Dried, oxidized almost beyond recognition. Years old. They test it. Biological trace. They run the DNA. It belongs to Wang Shiyuan. Zhang Benling's own living room is the scene. The man who supposedly fled his debts never made it out of this house. He'd been right here the entire time. Confronted with evidence he cannot talk his way around, Zhang Benling confesses. And as they dig into his life, the threads of this entire case begin braiding together in a way nobody expected. It turns out Zhang Benling and Wang Shiyuan had been close for years. Same township, same social circles. Connected by marriage, Zhang's wife, Zhang Hongxia, was a relative of Wang's by family ties. The two households were constantly in and out of each other's lives. But Zhang's marriage was falling apart, fighting all the time, and whenever Hongxia had a bad argument with her husband, she had somewhere to run. Wang Shiyuan's house. At first, Wang just listened, comforted her, told her things would be okay. But comfort, over time, became something else. An affair. Then, in March 2009, after a particularly violent argument where Hongxia's forehead was injured, she went to Wang shaking and crying and said, "I can't live like this anymore. One day he's going to end me." And that conversation, that one sentence, lit the fuse on this entire case. Because from that moment, Wang and Hongxia started planning to end Zhang Benling's life. Wang would put up the money. Hongxia's younger brother, Zhang Axiang, was recruited to find men willing to do it. And Hongxia herself would feed them her husband's daily schedule from inside the house. That's how Han Benli and Han Baoshan, the two men from Tianjin, entered this story in the first place. Every thread, every body, every twist you've heard so far traces straight back to one affair and one desperate conversation in 2009. Here's what Zhang Benling eventually discovered. On February 3, 2010, less than 2 weeks after Han Benli's body went into that well, Zhang walked into a mobile phone office and requested 3 months of his wife's call records. What he found? More than 700 calls between Zhang Hongxia and Wang Shiyuan. 700. In that moment, everything clicked for him. The affair, the connection between his wife's lover and the repeated, inexplicable attempts on his own life. Someone had been trying to have him taken out for months, and his own wife was part of it. All of it, right there in black and white. March 9th, 2010. The foggy day. The last day anyone sees Wang Shiyuan alive. That day, Wang comes to Zhang Benling's house. According to Zhang's confession, he confronted Wang directly, about the affair, about the 700 calls, about everything. Wang denied it all. The argument climbed fast. Years of being targeted, months of betrayal, the humiliation of his own wife conspiring with this man, it all erupted at once. Zhang and an accomplice named Li Wenxi attacked Wang with wooden sticks inside the house. Wang Xiyuan was ended right there, in Zhang Benling's own living room. The dark stains soaked into the furniture, into the embroidered cushions on the chairs. And now, Zhang faces the same problem that trips up almost everyone in his position. How do you make a body disappear completely? Most people fail here. But Zhang Benling is not most people. And what he does next is one of the most audacious things investigators in this province had ever seen. He places Wang's body into a transport bag, the kind used in his profession to carry the deceased. He removes the stained cushions from the chairs. Then, using his knowledge of the cremation paperwork system, he falsely reports a death certificate as lost. That gets him access to blank documentation. He transports the body to a crematorium in a neighboring county and processes it, officially, on paper, under the identity of an elderly man who had actually passed away years before. Let that sink in. He doesn't just hide the body. He doesn't bury it or dump it. He runs it through a legitimate government crematorium, under a dead stranger's name, stamped, signed, documented, burned to ash, gone forever. Then he takes Wang's phone, sends those text messages to the villagers. The brother messages, the ones with the one wrong word that he didn't realize would eventually give him away. And for 2 full years, it works. Perfectly. Step back for a moment. Look at the full shape of what happened here. The man who hired the hitmen became the victim. The hired hand became the faceless body in the well. The intended target became the one who took a life. And the woman at the center of it all set the entire chain reaction in motion. It started with an affair. The affair led to a conspiracy. The conspiracy pulled in hired men from 500 kilometers away. The hired men failed, then tried to extort the man who hired them. That man turned them against each other with whispered lies and a firearm. April 2014, the case officially closes. Zhang Benling, life imprisonment. Li Wenxi, the accomplice, 9 years. Han Baoshan, the man who wielded the axe, suspended death sentence. And Zhang Hongxia, the woman whose affair started everything, 11 years. Wang Xiyuan's family filed a civil claim for 300,000 yuan, about $44,000 in damages. They received 20,000 yuan, about $3,000, for a man who was reduced to ashes under another person's name and whose family spent years believing he'd simply run away. Everyone in this story believed they were the smartest person in the room. Every single one of them was convinced they could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast all the others. In the end, they all destroyed each other. Thanks for watching Paws and Clues with Ajax. I hope you found today's case as haunting as I did, and I'll see you again in the next story.